Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rinkus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 3-episode series with April McNamara, who is the owner of Functional Living with April, based out of Appleton, Wisconsin. Through her business, April specializes in providing in-home services to help families let go of clutter and simplify their homes. She also offers community workshops and classes to teach strategies on how to make a home more functional and supportive. April believes that our homes are more than just walls, they are an extension of us, and having a home that is both fun and organized can help make it easier to recharge, allowing us to have more time to do the things that we want and need to do. April's love of art also blends into her personal life, as she loves painting murals and doing crafts with her son, nieces, and nephews. She also enjoys ballroom dancing, traveling, trying new foods, and spending time in the woods with her husband and son. In our first episode together, April gives great perspectives and tips that can be applied to anyone. And then in episode 2, we zero in on how to keep a home with kids less chaotic and more manageable. And then finally, in episode 3, we talk about how we can help some older adults, maybe the more retired age, or even just empty nesters that we love, to live safely and joyfully in their homes long term. We're excited to share April's expertise and enthusiasm with you, so let's get started with today's conversation. Hey everybody, welcome back. We are excited to be sitting here with April. Welcome to the podcast, April.
Hello, thanks for having me.
We are so excited to learn from you. Before we dive into episode 1, we always love to ask our guests a little bit about themselves through a fun fact. So what do you have to share with our audience about you that's kind of fun or different?
Well, both of my parents were in the Army, and when I was little, my dad was stationed to Germany, so we lived in Germany from when I was probably around 3 years old to about 6 years old. And yeah, I don't remember as much about it, but it's really, I think, set some traditions within our family. And
yeah, give us an example of maybe one that comes to mind.
Well, I remember about, peanut butter was a lot harder to get back then in the 80s. And so I have this distinct memory of eating out of a jar of peanut butter and thinking it was the coolest thing. But I really love hazelnut and chocolate. And I wonder if that's where that was born.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But actually kind of a cool story related. So we moved out to Germany and we lived off base, and we lived in this apartment complex that was above a bakery and above a flower shop. So we started this tradition of always having fresh flowers on the table in the dining room or in the kitchen. And it's something that I just really love to have today. It just, I don't know, it just kind of brings that freshness. But our neighbors they either lived below us or next door, they happened to have the same last name as us.
What?
And then it turns out we were distantly related.
No
so
way.
It's just, so they would babysit me while my parents were, working, or dad was out in the field. And then, I spoke fluent German back then, and I know it's still in there. Like it's more of I just needing to be consistent and utilizing it.
Oh, but, yeah. That's awesome. That's something I didn't know about you.
Yeah. And Christmas time was always a lot of fun too. So
cool. What a fun memory. What an interesting, it is different and fun memory. A lot of pieces behind that. So we're excited to dive into learning more about your business. But before we do that, I want to hear a little bit about your history. So I know that you professionally have been an occupational therapist. You've worked in different arenas. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience as an occupational therapist, and then what led you to starting your own business?
Sure. So I've been a practicing occupational therapist for about 19 years now. And I've worked in a nursing facility setting, as well as in an acute care hospital, and then also in the schools in special education. And then I do have some background in research And I think that's where I got some of my love for like universal design concepts, was out of UW-Milwaukee in grad school, and just some of that research background. So that was really fun. And then fast forward a few years-ish, I think when my personal life and professional experience kind of came to a crossroads in a way, like during the pandemic, I really started to reflect on things. And then that's when I decided to start my own business. I think during that time, my mom and dad were having some health issues, and I'm the only child, and they live like 3.5 hours away. And then my son was 3 at the time, and trying to navigate the whole, helping family and being there while also trying to, keep home functional and like do all the things during the pandemic when it just felt like kind of world was like flipped upside down.
Yeah.
I really started to, it actually started. So when I was working in the schools, there's this classroom, and another teacher and I, we were collaborating, and we would stay after school painting a mural on the wall. We wanted to have like this space be kind of like a safe space, or a space like if a child was having a hard time and struggling, and maybe instead of like throwing things in the classroom, that this could be, like this comforting space where, hey, we could have like, a target to throw bean bags at, or, just have it like kind of a calming area, or even just have a space for just a different way of learning, learning opportunities. And I had worked with the kids, and the kids had chosen the theme of an underwater sea theme. And so we started painting some of the sea creatures on the walls, and we had embedded like different strategies to help with like redirecting or just kind of calming the mind, helping with self-regulation. And so some of the examples were, there was a starfish doing yoga. There was like a little electric eel with headphones on, so you could have been listening to music, or, having the noise canceling headphones. There was an octopus reading, and I think he was like writing with one of his other tentacles. There was like a fish blowing bubbles, just, kind of doing deep breathing, and just, it was really fun because then the kids would walk past and they're like, oh, there's a new sea creature on the wall. And I had forgotten how much I loved art. And so it was really therapeutic for me. I would stay after school, and I started doing that. And then my cousin, she had reached out to me. Hello, Annie. And her daughter, she went into labor early, and her daughter was born prematurely, and she hadn't had a chance to decorate the nursery. And she had asked me, she's like, will you help me paint an accent wall in the nursery? I kind of want to go with like unicorns in outer space. I was like, yes, this sounds amazing. So the two of us, we got together, and we were painting this cool galaxy wall. And I started thinking like, maybe this is what I'll do, like something in this area. So I started looking into, I joined a mural group and looking into that, and then realized like, nope, that's not it. Because there's something magical that happens when you're working with the person, or when you're like working with the kids, because I wrote a grant to get like different things over the light fixtures. And it was that whole experience of working with the person and really finding out like, what are their needs? What do they want in the space? And really thinking about how do we make that space feel more supportive? And so I started there with it. And I love being an occupational therapist. I really do. It's like this, I think of the kind of this combination of art and science and helping people to do the things that they want to do. And I think I was feeling a little frustrated with some of like the current healthcare system. I just felt really limited on how much I could help a person. I wanted to do more. And I kept coming back to, like, I think it starts at home. There's just so much about, when I was working with some of the older adults who came into the hospital, like they would come in, maybe they fell at home or had a bladder infection. And usually the doctors would place an order for occupational and physical therapy to eval for home safety. And then usually like what would happen is, okay, well, we're trying to address their needs kind of simulating what home might be like in a hospital environment is really different than actually at home. And then when I was working with, kids at school, and then when I became a mom too, your life changes so much. And, just thinking of sleep is one example.
For sure.
And because my son he just always loved to be awake. And how much, we as moms, like, we need to practice some self-care and have some regulation too, so we can be more present with our loved ones. And I had painted a mural of mountains on my son's room, on his wall. And I think about how much his room has changed with him as he got older. So I was doing some research on Montessori methods and things. And a lot of Montessori methods have to do with the environment. And you're really setting up spaces to help meet the needs of the child, where he or she is at. So it's like the little furniture or things that are within his range to be able to interact with the environment and promote some independence. And I think with that, that was kind of the beginning. So I started to find that, oh my gosh, kids have a lot of things. And I found that I was tired. And so I started to incorporate some strategies within our own home and finding that, that really helps me to feel a little bit calmer when things can be a little bit more manageable.
So now you go into people's homes and you help to transform their spaces to help them feel more supported and more probably authentic to who they are, right? So, but I think a lot of people would think, oh, she's going to come into my house and like organize it. Like if I have a bomb, she's going to come help me organize it. But you're talking about doing way more than that. Can you explain how you're doing more than just organizing in their home?
Yeah. So it still is occupational therapy in a way. It's just being more proactive and preventative and really looking at the whole person and the family and what their needs are. So I love to focus on what I call the living spaces. So there's these two concepts. One is called living spaces, and then the other is storage spaces. So think of living spaces as the areas where you do things, the activity zone. So things like, your table in the kitchen or your dining room, that might be where you sit down and have meals together. Your countertops in the kitchen, that might be like your prep station. The storage spaces are areas like your pantry, your cabinets, like the basement shelves where you put your Christmas decorations. It's the place where you store things. And I think so often, we get the two kind of mixed in. So when you start to make your living spaces be storage spaces, that's where it really impacts our ability to really function, and it can be really overwhelming.
Like that little table next to your, fridge or whatever that's piled up with everything. Right?
Yeah, the little cluster piles.
Yeah,
dump zones. Yeah, we all have those.
Oh, yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
April, how much do you think that our physical space, especially within our home, affects our mental state?
I think it has a huge impact. I feel like it's almost like the symbiotic relationship. So you think of some examples. So there's this one example that comes to mind of like a clownfish and the sea anemone. Woo-hoo, I said that word right. That's kind of hard to say. But in the ocean, the clownfish supposedly has like this layer of slime on it to protect itself from getting stung by the sea anemone. And it helps to feed and nourish the sea anemone through, like when it's eating, the food goes to the bottom, and I think also through its excrements. And then the sea anemone is helping to protect that the fish, and because other fish get stung when they try to go into that area, but they have this symbiotic relationship. Each one helps to nourish or support the other. And I feel like home is like that. How we are on the inside, like how our inner, I call it like an inner home, like how we're feeling, it really impacts our home environment. If we're feeling stressed out and overwhelmed, it tends to be reflected in our home environment. And rarely is it just one room. It's usually like spilled into other areas in the home. And then our home environment, if that's like overwhelming and there's so much stuff, that really can impact how you're feeling, how stressed out you're feeling. And I just found sometimes the actual act of doing something, that action brings clarity. And so I think that's sometimes a nice starting point to really start to go through some of the tangible things, because as you start to address some of those tangible things, we start to find out things about ourselves. Like, we place meaning onto these things. And there's probably some things that, maybe we weren't addressing, or, some healing that can happen. I know I experienced that in my own journey.
Yeah. So tell us about your, how you focus. I know you have 3 areas of focus, right? So you have the function part of it, the simplifying part of it, and then letting go. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So the function part is, there's a little emphasis on fun in there as well.
Oh, because you're a fun person too. So,
well, and I feel like we need that in our lives. So there's so much research on the benefits of play and leisure with children's and childhood, and helping with learning and engaging, and we learn through play. And then you fast forward all the way to later in life when you're retired or seniors, the importance of meaningful activities and engaging in activity and that connection with others. And then there's this middle period, where that parenthood and middle age area, where it's almost sometimes we forget how to play or forget to do that, because we're so focused on helping everyone around us, where there's helping to take care of our children or helping our parents. And I found, for me, play is painting. And it has opened up so much creativity for me I find it as a form of self-care. So I really try to, when I'm working with someone in their home, really, when we first meet, we really talk about what's the function of this space. So if we go in particular rooms to find out, what do you want to do? What do you need to be able to do in this area? And really finding out what's important to that person. What do they value in that family? And then I find when you can figure out the function of the space, that really helps to guide you with what things to put there. And then the next area is really looking at simplify. I think we live in this busy, busy, busy world of this go, 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 more, productivity, multitasking, all these things that it can just be a lot and be really overwhelming. And so I really kind of talk with someone looking at some of the home management types of things, okay, what's working? What is your current flow? What's your current system? Okay, let's look at that. What's working? What isn't working? Let's find out what are your strengths are, and let's lean into that. And it's really about developing different habits or trying different things. It takes a while to develop a new habit, but what we do every day impacts us for a lifetime.
Well, yeah. And I would say too, even if somebody says, I don't have a system, I'm sure you probably get that, I don't have a system. Well, you have a system that you're just not paying attention to, right?
Yeah. And that's part of when I think of occupational therapy, really a lot of what we do is task analysis. So you're looking at, okay, what is the big thing that you have to do? Laundry is usually can be a headache sometimes, and that be lots of flows, but really looking at okay, what is it that I need to do? And then how do I break this up into smaller steps so it's more manageable and that I can actually address those areas? And then the third area is, it kind of leads into letting go, I think. And that's going from the physical things, which I like to call, sometimes decluttering can be a triggering word for people. It's not like I'm going to go into your home and say, you have to get rid of all of your favorite things. No, we would not do that. It's really looking at, but if it's not manageable and if you're feeling overwhelmed, then it's time to do something different. And a big part of helping with organizing is first going through and kind of reducing your inventory, because that's going to help make home more manageable. And it's a lot easier to clean and organize when there's less. But also going with letting go is, maybe we need to let go of some of our expectations, or letting go of that perfection, because that's when you get stuck in that perfection mode, that's when that analysis paralysis happens, where you're oh, I can't start because it has to be like this. Where sometimes you just need to get started and let go of that perfection. You know what? It's okay. This is how we learn. We try out this system. Oh, it's not working. Okay, let's try something different or tweak it. But yeah.
I would say that you can apply that to anything in life, not just your home.
Yes,
that was a good life lesson right there.
Yeah.
So I know sometimes, I know you've had a reframing thought too, because a lot of people are I don't want to let this go. What if I need it someday? I think that's huge. How do you overcome that?
So one of the things that I found really, really helpful. So I was working, with mom and really wanting to help make home more functional for mom and dad, and recognizing that what we feel home means to us is a little bit different, but really kind of meeting her where she's at. And I found that when you're going through some of the things that a lot of times you just want someone to be able to appreciate it as much as you did. So finding almost like paying it forward. So I like to kind of think of that framework like, oh, what if I need this someday? Like reframing it to what if someone else needs it now? And that's been really helpful. And I'm pretty good at finding places for things like, you just think of schools or, talk to the art teacher or talk to the counselor, churches, as well as there's some really neat nonprofits and there's some nice places that are like paying it forward.
Yeah. So do you actually help people kind of discover this and work through this mentally?
Yes.
And then if they have items that they're willing to let go or that make sense to gift to someone else, essentially, you take those and you take care of it. So they don't actually have to like go out in the community and figure out where they go. Is that correct?
I do provide that as an option. Some people prefer to do that on their own, or they might know like, hey, I know who I want to gift this to. And some people feel like, nope, this is overwhelming. I just need you to take it and I can help with that as well.
That's so great.
Yeah, that's great. Because sometimes you might look in that box again and be like, I'm going to keep that.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it ends up like, you have your pile of items to donate and then somehow it ends up back in the pile of the other things to go through. And then you're kind of on that hamster wheel. So it's really individualized to the person and essentially what I can fit in my car. But yeah.
Yeah. I think what you're doing is amazing because this is a daily struggle for literally everybody, unless they've actually spent the time to sit in their spaces. Like you said, think about what they want to use those spaces for. And so many people are too busy to even do that. So every day, I'm speaking for myself right now, right? It's like I look around my home, the kitchen's a bomb. I have kids, which we're going to be talking about managing a house and kind of helping with the chaos when you have children in your home in our next episode. But it can be overwhelming and it's constantly on your mind. And I know that when my home is clean to a point of things are in their places where they're meant to be, I feel so much calmer as a parent. Mm-hmm. So I feel like you're speaking to literally everybody right now in the piece of, if you can just carve out this time and work with an expert like April on looking at what each space is meant to be used for and the function of it, and then how it can be designed to be perfect for you and your family, that feels so freeing to me. So I think that what you're doing is amazing. And it goes way beyond organizing. Like you said, it's not just coming and like fixing someone's pantry and saying, have a good life. This is like you spending time with them, really hearing what their story is, how they want their life to be, and then helping them execute that so that they can live a healthy, happy life in the home that they've chosen. Right?
Yeah. Yes. And I was thinking of, how does that quote go? Where if you give a person a fish, they eat for a day. And if you teach them how to fish, they eat for a lifetime. Yeah. Like I really want to help people to learn the strategies to be able to apply that in their own home, because I feel it has a ripple effect into our communities. Like if mom is in a better place, feeling like she's feeling supported and she's better able to help care for her children and even for her loved ones. And then we tend to be more present with our neighbors, and it just has a ripple effect in the community and starts at home.
I love that. Yeah. And it's just, I think your perspective is so great. And so it's gonna be so refreshing for people to really think about. Now, if people want to connect with you, there's a few different ways that they can. You do an in the community, like almost show. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it's funny how that one started out too. But so In the Community is a mini talk show web series where I go out into the community to interview other local businesses and resources who also bring fun and function into the home, but in a slightly different way. As I was finding when I help people in their homes, I'm recognizing that there's lots of needs, and me as one person, I cannot fulfill everything, but I want to know some different resources of people who can help. And so this was a way to kind of fill that, and it's been so much fun. Like I feel like I'm sometimes like get to be on like the Mr. Rogers episode, when they're like checking out how they make crayons, like sometimes seeing behind the scenes. And I just think it's so fun, and it's meant to be fun and lighthearted. Like you picture like 90s talk show mixed with like news anchor person out in the community, but as just to share other resources with people.
And they can find that on their website too?
Oh, yes. So I have a YouTube channel, and if you just type in Functional Living with April, that will pop up in there. And then I also have a website, functionalliving.life. And each month I feature the next episode of In the Community.
Perfect. And we'll link to that in the show notes as well for this episode. But then one other really quick thing I want to touch on in this episode is that you've been doing a lot of community classes or workshops.
Yes.
So typically, what do those look like? Are you kind of focusing in on a specific theme for each workshop? Is it applicable to anyone for each workshop? Just give us a really quick synopsis of what those look like.
Yes, so I'm really excited about that. This is fairly new. I've been doing it in January is when I started, and I just have so many ideas for future classes. But one of the things that I was noticing is I recognize like home is a really vulnerable place, and it can be kind of scary to have someone come into the home and help you through some of these processes when you're not sure, if you're feeling like if change is really hard for you as well. So I really wanted to provide another way to help people. And I started out with having, it started out with an hour-long class, and the feedback from people was like, no, they wanted more. So then the next time I came up with a workshop, which is 2.5 hours, and we really go through some of the strategies on breaking down like function, simplify, and let go, and then talk about some strategies that you can start implementing right away in your home. And then I have another workshop or class series that's coming up. Actually, it's going to be in January through Fox Crossing Park and Rec. So this is going to be a new one, and I'm super excited about this. This one is going to be a 4-week series, and each class builds upon the next one. So this is going to be, if you like have these New Year's resolutions where you want to get home to be more functional, this is going to be the class for you, because like there's going to be some homework, but it's going to be practical homework. Like, so we'll talk about some concepts in class, and then you'll have some homework to take home, and then you bring it back to class. And the other cool thing is like small group instruction. There's something comforting when you're going through this journey with others.
Yeah.
And my hope, it's been really neat to see some of this actually happen in class, but I'm excited to see how this grows with like the longer classes. My hope is that people in the class start to connect with each other. So then when class is over, they can, maybe want to keep in touch to, help each other through that journey. And
that sounds great.
And then
sorry,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead and finish your thought on that.
And then if people need more help, like say they get home and they're trying to apply some of the concepts and they need more help, I'm happy to help. Like just reach out, and I'm happy to help them in their home.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask, is obviously the workshop is fantastic. I love how that sounds. If somebody logistically can't put that in their schedule for whatever reason, they can contact you for just like a 15-minute free consult to ask questions to see what your one-on-one coming into their home would look like for them, correct?
Yep. So that one can be either virtual, like if they see face-to-face, or on the phone. And I find it helpful sometimes, like sharing pictures of some of the space to give me an idea on, okay, what are some of the areas that might be harder and that person is needing as well. But,
awesome. Lots of options.
Yeah.
Lots of options to learn from you. I think what you're doing is so great. So in the next episode, for our listeners, we're going to be diving into and speaking to those of you who have kiddos living at home, because we know that it can just make home a little bit more chaotic. So April's going to give us some awesome tips on helping to manage that. And then in our episode after that, we're going to be talking about helping those who are more senior age, helping to look at their homes and how those can be both functional and supportive for that age group. So stay tuned for the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review, or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.